talking with you all either through phone or an email. And we also have, I see we have Katie Choha, who is the Director of Programs. I think she's joining us by phone today, so we might hear from her a little bit. We still have a few more people joining. So while I continue to let folks into the meeting, I do want to share with you all some upcoming important dates. So we have our financial wellness training opportunity starting on January 29th at 9 a.m. to noon. You will need to register by the 22nd. We also have our mental health first aid training on January 20th from 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Registration is on January 13th. Applications for the Big Garden Special Grant Opportunity are due March 1st. Spring applications for the Giving Grove Special Grant Opportunity are due March 1st as well. And our upcoming virtual training hours with Judy Johnson will be Thursday, February 10th through 10 through 11, and then 4 to 6 p.m. And then lastly, which I'm really excited for, we do have an Improving Racial Equity webinar series that's starting today, but will continue on February 10th and March 10th. And so before we get started into our guest speakers, I would like for our guest speakers to introduce themselves, and then we can go on through with the rest of our webinar. So let's see. If I can have Lacey introduce herself first, please.
I'm Lacey. I am with Interfaith Housing and Community Services. I'm the Director of Creating Assets, Savings, and Hope. And I'll be talking to you today about the financial wellness training.
Awesome. Thank you. Could I have the representatives from Colby UMC introduce themselves?
Hi, I'm Janine Brown, and we have half of our Healthy Congregations team here. We have Sue Evans, Jerry Schumann, Joe Kraus, and our Pastor Rogers Toshiba. Getting them. So,
awesome. Thank you. And welcome. I'm so happy to have you all here and to see your guys' faces. So this is great. Could I also have Newton UMC? The representatives from Newton and UMC introduce themselves. Looks like Newton hasn't arrived quite yet, so we'll give them a little bit of time. And then also, can I have Maddie from the Good Neighboring Experience introduce herself?
Hi there, my name is Maddie Johnson, and I'm the faith-based organizer at the Neighboring Movement, and I'm in charge of the Good Neighbor Experiment, which is one of the programs that the Health Fund partners with.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so we have a pretty lengthy agenda today, so I'm just gonna go ahead and get us started. First up today, we're gonna hear from Lacey from Interfaith. She's going to tell us what Interfaith is, what are the benefits of faith-based organizations participating in this program, and she's also going to tell us how the congregation churches can sign up. Lacey, let me go ahead and get your PowerPoint up here so you can work off of that as well. All right, give me a second. And Lisa, you can just tell me to advance the slides for you.
Okay. I don't see the.
Okay, sorry, I'm pulling it up right now.
Okay.
Sorry, give me a second. Here we are. Can you see my screen, Lacey?
Yes, yes, I can.
Awesome.
All right, first and foremost, everybody can hear me, correct? Thumbs up. Yep, okay. All right, so I'm going to tell you about Interfaith Housing and Community Services first. Interfaith Housing was established in 1991, but it all began in the 1980s. While working with the Mother to Mother Ministries through her church, Helen Rosenblad realized there was a growing number of young mothers in our community who needed help with minor home repairs. On a mission to ease the burden for these mothers, Helen began to organize volunteers from the community to tackle the much needed repairs, and tackle they did. These dedicated individuals gave up their Saturdays, paid for their own supplies, and went out into the community to help these young families. In response to the growing need and a group of founders came together in 1991 and created Interfaith Housing and Community Services. They are recognized and applauded for their leadership and vision, which laid a solid foundation for growth and community service. From the very beginning, it was Interfaith's mission to provide housing repair and rehabilitation for low-income homeowners in Kansas. Operating on a very limited budget, Interfaith relied on volunteers to make this happen. To this day, volunteers remain a big part of Interfaith Housing and Community Services. Slide. Where the mission for Interfaith is today and our vision. Interfaith Housing and Community Services seeks to alleviate poverty and build community through housing assistance, financial education, and individual empowerment. We envision communities where people have the knowledge and tools to achieve financial self-sufficiency and access to housing that is affordable to their level of income, accessible to their level of need, and where they can live within safety with dignity. Our programs here at Interfaith to date consist of the HRR program. The HRR program is our home repair and rehabilitation program. This is our mission-minded program. This is the program that started Interfaith. This program is only served in Reno County currently. We do have different models of that is expanding throughout the state of Kansas. With our general contractor here at Interfaith is providing those services. We're in Rice County. We have Kingman County and Anthony and Harper that are interested. So that's a big thing for us. We do have a rental program. Our rental program is what they call market value rental, where you do not have to, it's not income based. It is just based on how much the rent is. So a 2-bedroom, fully remodeled home could be $550 for a family, which in Reno County, it could potentially, that most generally is about $800 to $1,000. We have rentals in Reno County, Dodge City, Harper and Anthony. And then we have the cash program. I'm getting a kickback now. So then we have the cash program. The cash program is creating asset savings and hope. This is the program that I am the director of. What creating asset savings and hope is kind of an umbrella of what 3 services we provide underneath this umbrella. We do have the Kansas IDA program. The IDA program is a savings match program. Individuals save $1. We match with $2. They can save up to $3,000. We match with $6,000. That gives them $9,000 for the purchase of an asset. Their assets can be first-time home buyer, home repair, college education, and small business. capitalization. The individuals in the Kansas IDA program, they are low income. We serve the 200% poverty. It is across the state, and they go through a rigorous, they go through financial education. They get matched with a credit counselor that we have on staff that builds their credit. We go through budgeting. They go through all sorts of education, and to make them self-sufficient to purchase that asset. Then we have the K-Home program. The K-Home program is for first-time home buyers. First-time home buyers, this program is across anywhere. We've done first-time home buyer education, and of course, it's through Zoom or on the, through the internet. But we've done anywhere from New York, and we just recently did Washington. So we can go to any state with our first-time home buyers. Sometimes grants that are down payment assistance grants, they do require individuals to take a first-time home buyer education and meet with a certified first-time home buyer counselor. We have 3 of those on staff. That is a service that does cost $99. At times, it is either the lender will pay for that, or the grantor for these down payment funds will pay for that. All of our clients in the IDA program do get those services for free if they're purchasing a home. So then last but not least, what brings me here today is the collaborative coaching piece of that. That is under our Creating Asset Savings and Hope program. So collaborative coaching is a relation model of coming alongside people as they work towards specific self-directed goals for economic stability. Anybody can coach anytime and anywhere. Coaching is an emerging field that supports clients as they work towards goals and strive to maximize their financial potential. Coaching is a skill-based, facilitative process that helps a client or individual connect to their emotions with their decision-making. Coaching can help raise individuals' emotional intelligence, self-awareness, and self-management skills, helping them improve how they deal with what happens to them financially and how they deal with their finances. At its core, coaching embraces a philosophy that the clients can achieve the change they desire, and the coach's role is to support that effort. Why this is important to the churches. Facing a rising volume of requests for assistance, churches tend to focus on short-term, tangible aid and referrals. This meets the crisis of the moment without touching the underlying issue or making a personal connection. Many frontline workers, staff, or volunteers who interact directly with people in need are frustrated with this status quo and hunger for more relational approach that they can help people make progress, moving beyond stability to sufficiency. They need to be equipped, encouraged, and connected. People seeking assistance from churches often come with trauma in their backgrounds and generational patterns of poverty. While sometimes all that is needed is one-time aid, often there are deep-seated barriers to financial sufficiency. These issues cannot be resolved by short-term assistance or fixed by top-down directives like get a job or quit smoking. Vulnerable people need first to be treated with compassion and respect, which sadly is not always the case. They also need church members who will affirm their potential, offer realistic hope for change, help them set their own goals, and walk with them while they do the hard work to achieve themselves. They need the social capital that grows out of spending time together and really listening to someone's story and developing mutual respect. We aim to provide the environment where mostly middle-class church members can learn how to become collaborative coaches to people with economic and life struggles. This involves setting aside our natural inclination to judge others and want to fix them. The collaborative coaching curriculum emphasizes developing emotional intelligence alongside financial skills. This curriculum will not only lead to more people in poverty getting help, it will change the way we help. A couple examples of this, why we feel like this is a good fit for this. Of coaching training, and we got over 25 churches together, frontline volunteers, frontline, individuals that's just answering the phone. We know that people go to churches and ask them for an immediate need. They were seeing some lack of, how can we help further type of thing. Diane and I, which is my coworker, we got the opportunity to go to a really great training here in Kansas City, and we were taught this collaborative coaching type style. And we use that with our Kansas IDA program. We have over 250 individuals within our Kansas IDA program that we use this model on. It is one-on-one model, and it creates a culture of opportunity with them. Another thing, by doing that training and teaching individuals, we are certified coaches, so there's that, but by teaching the individuals in our community who are part of these churches, 3 things have come from that. The first thing is the ministers across our community get together once a month, and they touch base of what are our barriers, what are our successes. How are we serving these individuals? The frontline workers have gotten together on a no wrong door approach. No wrong door approach is several churches and several service agencies have come together where there is no wrong door. If an individual walks in the door, we can take care of the current need, or the service agency. We also have the last thing that had been developed from this is the Nonprofit Connect. Nonprofit Connect every Friday has met for over 2 years, just again to do service agencies and frontline church workers that just explain, these are our barriers. This is what we're doing. This is what we're doing because of this. We've had turn your lights on come from that. And that is where churches want to pick a night where they turn their lights on a little extra longer, and you can donate food there. Just several activities have come from this coaching type curriculum. And the last slide. I do want to open the floor for questions if you have any questions.
Stacy, thank you so much for your.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I was just curious how you relate to the churches then. Do you, are you asking to have people take the training, or I'm not quite sure. I don't quite see the connection exactly yet.
So it's for individuals who, so for the ones that, do you take the phone calls? Do you work with people who are in need? It's your personal growth. This is for you personally and how you provide the service. We're not asking churches to, build a client base or anything like that, provide any service that they don't already do, but more of a resource to help the individual in need take a step further.
Okay, so the training would be not necessarily for a team of your healthy congregations, but more like for an individual if they wanted to get involved in this way? It
is for the healthy congregation it can be designed for a team as well. So if you have a team of people that are serving the church, your volunteers and whatnot, that, because it's for the ones who are providing the service from the church, not the individual that walks in the door.
So this is Katie. When we were talking through this program, and Joyce, just kind of as background, we were thinking of it as a way and it can be beyond just your Healthy Congregations team. There can be other members within your congregation, if you would like to have them participate, just to give them a baseline knowledge about how to walk alongside someone and help them through the process. And then also, you know, as Lacey was talking about, there's a lot of other great resources. So if it's your pastor that wants to participate, or other participants within your congregation, that you'd be able to have a team that we put together. So the training is coming up very soon. And so we just wanted to make sure you all knew about this opportunity, and then potentially so that you're able to sign up for it if you want to get a group together. I think it's a great opportunity to learn a new model for how to do some financial wellness pieces with some individuals within your community.
And what is the date of the training?
The training.
So the
starts-
training date, yeah.
The training starts on Saturday, January 29th, and will continue on February 5th, 12th, and 19th. I'm going to share my screen of where you could sign up and RSVP and also learn more information. So let me go ahead and share my screen now. So this is our Health Fund website, and you would find this by going to special grants. You would go to Healthy Congregations, then go to special grants, and then this is a list of all of our available grants. You will scroll down to financial health, state control, collaborative training. And here you can see when the applications are due and the 4 sessions of training. And you can also learn more about the special grant here on the side. And then you can sign up on the side here.
And I think I was hearing that that would be appropriate for our administrative assistant who receives most of the initial face-to-face requests for assistance.
Yes, that's perfect, Patsy.
Okay, thank you.
The other thing that I want to say is within this training, you do get a ton of resources to provide information about financial wellness. You get activities and things you can do with others, you know, clients or individuals. You get activities, you get the whole curriculum. So yeah, it's what we use to build financial sufficiency for individuals. Sorry.
No, it's okay, Lacey. I think the issue with the sound is that I think it sounds as though you may be someone's on the phone and then someone's also on Zoom at the same time. And so I think whoever's doing that, mute your line that's on the computer, but keep your phone unmuted. And see if that will help. Let's see.
This too, that I think is really just like a logistical piece, is you have team members that want to sign up, please have them sign up individually and not as a team, so that we have everyone's contact information, know what congregation you're part of. So we just want to make sure that we're able to capture that. And again, I think this is a really great opportunity, and the tools that Interfaith Housing has been utilizing for a very long time, and especially within that IDEA framework and IDA framework, sorry, I apologize, I think is a really great asset for you to be able to have and utilize within your churches. Again, this is open to anyone within your congregation that would be interested in participating. And if this is an idea of something that you all would like to participate in, we wanted to open this up to you all.
Thank you, Cody. I think that's a good, if we don't have any more questions for Lacey, we can go ahead and move on to our next guest. Are there any more questions for Lacey? Okay, so Maddie from the Good Neighboring Experiment is here today to tell us more about GNE, what are the benefits of churches participating in this program, and successful outcomes. So Maddie can go ahead and join us, and you can let me know when you're ready for me to pull up your slides.
Thanks, Dashanika. So as I shared earlier, my name is Maddie, and I am the faith-based organizer at the Neighboring Movement. Our faith-based program is called the Good Neighbor Experiment, and it is a 9-month training for churches and faith leaders, really to learn how to be better neighbors. And we focus in 2 ways: being a better neighbor where you live. So that means, when you gather with your folks in your church family, everyone's from a lot of different places. So you can focus on neighboring where you live, but then you also focus on neighboring as a church and looking at the houses and the community surrounding your church building and work on being a bit better neighbor in your church neighborhood. We are so grateful for our partnership with the Health Fund. We have found, and there's a lot of research that backs that we are in a crisis of loneliness and isolation. And so we really truly believe in this work of neighboring to combat the loneliness that I know we've all experienced in big and small ways. And so being better neighbors can really improve the health of our neighborhoods and our communities. And so with that, I wanted to start with some of the outcomes and hopes that we have when your church goes through the 9 months of the Good Neighbor Experiment. So I'll have Dashanika share that screen now. And we're splitting our outcomes into 2 things. So our hope for the 9 months of the Good Neighbor Experiment is, one, that you individually, if you're participating, and you, your church, experience a culture shift. And that's really why it's so long, because 9 months can feel like quite a lot of time to invest. But we really believe that the Good Neighbor Experiment helps churches and individuals shift culturally. And there are 3 ways we shift. The first is a shift from focusing on programs, focusing on being simply a service provider, but instead shifting back to the heart of who we are all called to be as people of faith, and being relationship builders. And so that is the first shift that we emphasize in our 9-month training. The second shift is a shift from scarcity to abundance. And I don't really need to explain to you what scarcity feels like. I'm sure we've all felt it in ways in our lives and in our churches and in our communities. But we really believe that there is so much that God is already doing in our church families and in our neighborhoods. And so we start there. We focus on the abundance that is all around us. And then we see how that abundance might meet some of the gaps in our world around us. And then the last shift is a shift from inauthenticity to joy. And we at the Neighboring Movement really see inauthenticity as, those moments and those opportunities where we're not really aligning with how God might be calling us to lead and to move. And so joy really is being genuine, being authentic, and just following how God is leading. And so those are the shifts that we walk you through in the 9-month training. And the shift really takes place in the second half of the outcomes, which is the neighboring tools. And so these shifts come to light through an 8 Front Doors block map, which is a training that helps you and your church learn how to get to know the 8 front doors nearest to you. We equip churches by teaching and training them how to build an asset map or a gifts garden to see what gifts and assets and glimpses of abundance are already around them. We train churches in learning conversations, which we see as kind of relational one-on-ones, where you get to know deeper your neighbors and even who God is calling you to be. And then lastly, we train in what we call the recycle, which is a discernment model that helps us lean into joy a little bit better and more clearly. So that is a lot of kind of just a process. But again, I just wanted to reiterate that in the 9 months, our hopes and our outcomes are this culture shift, as well as equipping churches with neighboring tools. And so I'm now going to ask Dashanika to move to the next slide, which will outline kind of what that 9 months will look like on the ground. And it'll start with recruiting. And so if you are a Healthy Congregations church, that's a super great place to start. Because of our partnership with the Health Ministry Fund, all you need to do is sign up to be a Healthy Congregations church, or if you already are one, great. You just let the Health Fund and Dashanika know that you want to participate in the Good Neighbor experiment, and it is free, no cost to you. And so it starts with recruiting, figuring out who your neighboring team is going to be. That could be your Healthy Congregations team. Maybe you want to expand to maybe a missions or service team, and you want to open that up a little bit more, but you get to decide who are the 4 to 10 people who are going to walk through this 9 months. And so that's really what happens before G&E even starts. But the cohort will begin with a workshop, and this will be a virtual workshop through Zoom. And this first workshop is really training local churches in being a better neighbor where you live. And so that's where we focus on looking at the 8 front doors nearest to you and doing that work. So after you come to that first workshop, it's about 3 hours on Zoom. You are then equipped and ready to go back to your local churches and dive into our small group studies. And so we call these small group studies labs to kind of go with that experiment theme. And so we have the labs outlined for you all. They kind of operate a little bit like a weekly small group. And so each lab is 6 weeks long, and you can take that as fast or as slow as your team wants. And it really just gives you opportunity to dive deeper in being a good neighbor where you live, as well as giving you some call to action to actually go out and meet your neighbors in your neighborhood. And as a part of the Good Neighbor experiment, you have a kind of a coach who walks with you. It might be me, it might be some of my colleagues at the neighboring movement, but you have 1 to 2 coaching calls in those kind of first 3 months to check in and see how things are going. And then after kind of around the 3-month mark, we come back for a virtual workshop 2. And that's where we shift to not solely focusing on neighboring where you live, but neighboring as a church and looking at the homes directly surrounding your church building. If you're in a rural setting, that's okay. That might mean your neighborhood looks like your town or your community. We've worked with all kinds of contexts. So and we've seen fruit in all of the contexts. So we train and equip you in that workshop so that you can go back to your local church and dive into the next 2 small groups, which are labs 3 and 4. And that's where you'll really look at getting to know your neighbors and the organizations and nonprofits and businesses in your neighborhood or community. And so again, you have some coaching calls available to you. And then we close kind of the formal time with a final workshop where we focus on celebration and really discerning how God might be calling your local church to further neighboring. And then the final 3 months is really, we have a pretty intentional coaching call where you'll get to kind of map out how you want neighboring to continue. And you're also granted access to a bunch of resources that we have at the neighboring movement, like a sermon series, a Sunday school curriculum for both youth and adults, an alumni community with quarterly coaching calls. So it's 9 months, but you're given a lot of flexibility and opportunity to really lean into how God might be calling you and your church to be better neighbors. So we are actually still have a couple spots for our January cohort. So if your local church is interested and maybe you've got a healthy congregations team ready to go and you're just looking for what the next thing might be, we would encourage you to reach out to me so that we can make sure to connect you. But we typically have cohorts start every January and August. So you can look for our next one around August or early September of next year. So I know I've kind of offered a lot, and so I want to give just a quick story or two to really highlight the fruit that we've seen from the Good Neighbor experiment. And the first story I want to share is kind of why I'm involved in the Good Neighbor experiment. And Dashanika, if you want, you can exit out of this slide. But when 2 years ago, I started, I was serving at a local United Methodist Church in Winfield, Kansas. I'd just come back from the big city of Chicago, and I was brand new to a small town life. And my first experience with the Good Neighbor experiment was in the local church I was called to serve at. They had just completed the Good Neighbor experiment. So I never did the formal training with them, but I'm lucky because I got to see the fruit. And so I remember the very first day I arrived, I showed up with my mom and dad with my moving truck. And none of the church members, unfortunately, were able to be there because it was during the middle of the workday. But the one woman who was able to be there realized we were going to need some more hands. And since she had been doing this work with neighboring at their local church, she had gone door knocking around the church building. She had gotten to build relationship with the neighbors around the building. And so she said, why not just look around at the gifts and assets we have right here. And so she went 3 doors down to a house that had 8 kids in this house, and they were playing outside. And she just said, hey, do you want to help the new pastor move in? And they all said, sure. And they ran over to my house. And I kid you not, they unloaded me in like 10 minutes. It was incredible. And I was a little concerned about liability at certain points because they were moving my couch in crazy ways on the porch. But it was so wonderful to see just such a simple thing of going to see who might be available to help, like who are my neighbors who are around me who might help. And that's the culture shift we really, I think, see in the Good Neighbor experiment. It's just simply thinking of what's around you and building those relationships. And those were the very first people I met in my new town. And they were some of the most amazing people I got to meet. Some other stories of success we've seen really big stories and really small stories. Again, with culture shift, I think we really see those small stories add up to really see how relationship, abundance, and joy is growing. But one other story I wanted to share is of one of our churches who went through the Good Neighbor experiment in January. Well, started in January, so they concluded in August and September time. And they decided to have a block party in August because of all of the work that they'd been doing with neighboring and the Good Neighbor experiment. And they're in a tiny town, probably about 400 people in their town. And they had been doing door knocking around their church building, and they invited their neighbors to come. They average worship about kind of 8 to 10 people, but their block party brought about 20 to 25 folks from the neighborhood surrounding their church building. And it was people that some of them had never even met, but they'd been going to the church for like 4 or 5 decades. And so they came out, they had cornhole, they were grilling, they had one of their unhoused members in their community actually leading with the grill. And one of their neighbors said, oh, I can't come, but I wish I could. I'm really sick right now. So they brought her a burger, and just those connections that they shared and the joy that they had of building relationship was one of our, is just such fruit. And we're really grateful for those stories that show how relationship, abundance, and joy is growing in our churches. So I'll stop there. Any questions?
Maddie, one thing I was going to ask about, have you had groups that have come together, like have invited other congregations or other people within their community to participate within their teams?
Yeah, that's a great question. We've had, for example, there was one church that the Methodist Church was leading. They were a part of the Good Neighbor experiment, but there was a member in their community who was a part of the Catholic Church, and she really wanted to participate because of the relationship she had. So she joined the small group studies and the workshops kind of alongside the Methodist Church. Our other examples of churches doing this together, we're partnering right now with the districts of Hutchinson and Salina to actually do kind of the Good Neighbor experiment through the networks. And so you might see, I don't know where folks are coming from, but if you're in Hutchinson or Salina districts, that is available to you. We're partnering with those two districts to do this work more as like a network, rather so that we can kind of map the community a little bit more fully rather than just looking at one local church. So we're experimenting, much to our name. So great question, Katie.
Do you have follow-up after you finish the year on a regular basis or only as needed?
Kind of both. I'm always available for coaching calls, but we also have a formal kind of, we call it GNE alumni network. And so we do quarterly calls of all of our alumni churches. We're growing that because this is a newer thing for us. But for example, our next one is in mid-February, and we're having churches from the last 5 years be able to participate in those calls. And you also have access to all of our resources. If you've signed up for the Good Neighbor experiment, you, even beyond your 9 months, have access to our resources. And we continue to add like supplemental material so that you're able to further neighboring where you are.
We don't. Thank you for Maddie. Just put her email in the chat box if you guys want to make sure to write that down to learn more, talk to her more about the Good Neighboring experiment. If we don't have any more questions, we can go ahead and move on to our next guest speakers from Colby UMC. Are there any more questions for Maddie? Okay, great. So if I can have the representatives from Colby UMC go ahead, and I can pull up your PowerPoint now if you like. Hi, Colby UMC. Whenever you guys are ready, you guys can start and just let me know when to advance the slides.
Okay, thank you. My name is Sue Evans, and on behalf of Janine Brown, Pastor Rogers, Joe, and Jerry, I thank you for this opportunity to present. We have participated in 4 special grant projects that we'd like to tell you about and how we've done so. So Dashnika, if you could please give me the next slide. One of the first things we did is when we realized we wanted to have a garden on our church property, and it was approved by the administration, by everyone involved, we decided we needed to take a field trip, and we went and visited the big garden, the place where it all started in June of 2018. We took 3 healthy congregation members plus 1 member of the Thomas County Community Foundation, who also happens to be a master gardener. And she was going to be the one that started another community garden on city property. So we had a really good group, and we were way ready to learn. And we got lots of ideas. We saw their greenhouses. where they raise bedding plants and which they sell as part of a fundraiser, beautiful bedding plants. We saw their in-ground garden plots. We saw the raised beds they had there, composting. They had composting all over everywhere. We talked about irrigation. We saw their equipment and tools storage shed and the beautiful, wonderful resource library they had. After we toured the headquarters, we went to a garden that had been established at a school. And what was interesting about this garden is that it couldn't have in-ground plots because of contamination from a dry cleaning plant that had previously been on that site. So they had to have raised beds, and that's what we were interested in, were raised beds for our garden. You can see the bottom picture, they had a spiral herb garden, and we took lots of pictures of that and eventually recreated one in our garden. We also got the idea to use place names for the garden name. So our garden, Dashnika, if you would please advance the slide, is called the Colby Franklin Garden. Our sister garden is called the Copeland Community Garden. And so there are two community gardens in Colby. With our special grant funds, we established 9 raised beds. We mulched the area around the raised beds because we have an abundance of bindweed. That's what we actually grow the best. We bought hoses, plants, soil, a sign, and you can see the spiral we created. And we have strawberries in our spiral. We had a tool, we have tools and shed, which were donated by the Thomas County Community Foundation with the idea that our garden be used for the community, not just Colby United Methodist Church congregants. That's happened. We use the garden for our summer youth program, which brings education about gardening. Our congregants use the garden, and particularly we have 3 or 4 senior older women that love to go pick a fresh tomato or a fresh green pepper to use. Community members, and then we've donated to Genesis Food Pantry. Our partnership with the Copeland Garden has been especially useful. They have master gardeners that are part of their community garden, and they also have a greenhouse, and they raise bedding plants, which they donated to us to use. If you could advance the next slide, Dashnika, I'd like to introduce Joe, who is going to talk about our bike share program.
Okay, so the bike share program for us is fairly new. The knowledge about that was brought to us by our previous pastor, and we actually were able to get 6 bikes. We have 2 library partners, and so the downtown city library and the library on the community college each have 3 bikes. We also partner with Walmart. That's the local place where we were able to purchase bikes. And then it originated with the Thrive Allen County is where we received the grant. So it started in April. We were able to do a statistic evaluation in August. So we don't know yet how the bikes were used for the fall semester at the college. We do know that they were used every day. Somebody checked out a bike from either place. At the college, we found out that during the summer, the spring semester and the summer, a lot of the use was with the foreign students that come to the community. We'll see if that holds true when we get statistics in a couple days again. Definitely feel like more bikes would be used. So we have local funding that has shown an interest in helping us purchase more bikes. Let's see, we have a local bike path and development, and really we'll wait, see what the statistics tell us in the next couple days about how the last semester went on You know, are they checked out at the college and then taken to the downtown? Or do they use them? My guess is the foreign students use them as their means of transportation to get to the stores and get things back to the campus. But we still have to find that out. And then going forward, I plan to make an on-site visit at both of the locations where bikes are stored so we can evaluate what kind of condition the bikes are in. And in the grant application, we indicated a commitment to getting more bikes. And we know that if there were more bikes and there was an even number at the college, they might be used more because it seems like they go out in pairs. When they come and check out a bike, like 2 people will go together. So we may work to have an even number at the college so they're used better. But it's fairly new to us and we're still evaluating what the need is. Now, I think next is my sister, who's going to talk about our giving growth.
Hi, I'm Jerry Schumann, and in October of 2020, we had an outdoor event. Many of the people, there were 15 to 20 people that attended. 2 of them were 2 groups of families with children, and at that point, everybody was excited to get together. We hadn't been doing in-person church, so a gathering outside was an activity that was looked forward to. We planted 8 trees. We had 5 Asian pear trees and 3 that were bush cherries. The bush cherries did not survive the first winter because we had severe temperature fluctuations that killed a lot of things in the area. We removed all of the blossoms from the pear trees the first spring, so we didn't expect a crop. We installed a drip irrigation system last spring so that we could keep water to them over the summer. Molly Bahrain, the big garden coordinator, came and helped us with some pruning late in the summer. And we will probably continue to remove the blossoms again through the next growing season so that the plants can devote more energy to growing big, strong trees instead of fruit. We are considering adding to our giving grove with perhaps some plum. The plum thickets grow well around here, and bramble bushes. So that's what we're kind of thinking of. We also had a churchyard cleanup day in September of this last fall, and had around 20 people that came and helped to weed around the giving grove, but then also to do a lot of much needed work, removing dead tree limbs and dead trees. As an outgrowth of that, 3 large cottonwood trees were removed from our property, and we replanted 4 linden trees, and this took probably 2 months out of that, but we felt like that was an extension of our outdoor activity thing, and help other congregants were aware of what we needed to do with our landscaping and jumped in to help. So I'll turn it over to Janine.
Okay, we could move to the next slide. And I'm going to talk about the summer food service. For us, and I want to point out that each slide, the bullet points are our people that we've worked with, the groups that we've worked with. And for this one, we didn't think of it until we'd already sent our PowerPoint in, that Thomas County Health Department was another partner with this. We actually started this program in 2017. Our USD 315 had a program to serve meals to the community children. It was going to be located at Colby United Methodist Church, and 1 day a week, members of our healthy congregation helped to serve this meal. The meals were actually shelf-stable meals, and so weren't maybe accepted as well as meals had they been hand prepared or prepared. Didn't have fresh milk. just the total program we had a real low attendance of youth at this. In 2018, we had the grant opportunity to write this special grant for the summer food service. And our healthy congregations supplemented each of the meals that were brought by the other group with fresh fruits and vegetables and also fresh milk. In addition, we recognized that the youth who came had to be brought by someone, and sometimes the people that brought them didn't enjoy just sitting and waiting and doing nothing. So we also then were providing a salad lunch for the adults who brought the children. Still, the attendance was better, but still fairly low participation. And then 2019, our church was closed to group gatherings, but Colby United Methodist Church was one of 3 sites where the school prepared sack lunches and then distributed them at 3 different sites throughout the community. Members of our congregation helped distribute these sack lunches, and we did that in both 2019 and 2020. And actually, the participation by youth in the community was much better. I think families could just come and get their sack lunches and go home. And so COVID kind of helped us learn a lesson that sometimes is a good thing. We actually still have some money in this account of the summer food service program. So one of the things we'll probably be doing this spring, I'm not sure what the school will do in terms of lunches, but we'll be taking a look at what we need to do in the future. So Sue's going to come back and talk about lessons learned.
We really came up with 3 key lessons we've learned, and it ties right into the plans going forward. The first lesson we learned is to use our needs assessment results. For all healthy congregations, you know, we have to do a needs assessment. Of course, we kind of roll our eyes, but it really turned out to be a good thing. When we started looking at the data, we realized that there was a need for fresh vegetables and fresh fruit, and the community wanted that. So the garden, hence the special opportunity, the garden grant and the orchard grant for the food. So we tried to use that needs assessment to figure out what was important for us to do in our congregation and in the community. Second lesson we learned was it's important to engage community partners. None of these could have been done without community partners. Our examples for that are Colby Community College and Pioneer Memorial Library that Joe shared about for the bike share program. The Copeland Garden has been so helpful with us. So one of our lessons is you need to look for other programs and that are there and work with those partners. And our third lesson is to work with existing programs and enhance or expand what they're already doing. And what we did with that one, that our summer food program was an example of that. There was food already being served. It just needed to be enhanced, which we did with healthy options. So I'll let Janine wrap up, and if you have any questions, we'll be happy to address those.
Well, we do want to thank all of our wonderful people at the Health Fund. It has been really helpful to have the resources, the structure for our program, their technical assistance, and the staff support. And we know that we can zip off an email or a text or a phone call and get our answer right away. So we really do thank you for this opportunity and assistance to do the things we wanted to do.
Thank you so much, Colby UMC. And I really do appreciate your kind words at the end. You guys have done an amazing job over the years of being a Healthy Congregations Church. I don't want to take too much time talking, so I want to open up the floor for any questions for Colby. You can ask them questions like, how did you, build partnerships? Things like that. If there are any questions that you would like to know for your Healthy Congregations Church that you've seen Colby do, please feel free to ask me some questions now.
Is your Giving Grove on church property?
Yes, it is. We have a large yard around our church, so we decided that was the best place to put it.
And we have access to water. Our church has let us, for the garden and for the Giving
Mhm.
Grove, tap into the church's water.
Which is a very important
Yes.
commodity in our region.
Do you have the construction for that spiral strawberry thing?
We actually, one of our members of our committee at the time had extra bricks. And so looking at the picture of what we'd seen in Omaha, we just built a spiral. So you just have to have the bricks. And then filled it with good potting soil.
You can probably find directions on Pinterest.
Or contact the Big Garden. And if you wanted us to do close-up photos, we could certainly send those to you so you could see how it was constructed together.
Right.
I was just the hauling bricks part. I was not the actual construction.
Awesome. That's a great question. Thank you. Any more questions? Okay, well, thank you, Colby UMC. And again, I appreciate you guys joining us today. It was a joy to hear about the wonderful things you guys are doing. And I'm sure your PowerPoint and your words of encouragement, will help churches to build their plans for the next year. Next up, we have a Healthy Congregations team from Newton UMC. Newton UMC, are you on the line with us today?
Yes.
Hi, Patsy.
Hi, Dashnika. Thank you.
Would you like me to pull up your PowerPoint now?
Yes, you can go ahead and do that. And I am Patsy Pinner, and I'm a member of First United Methodist in Newton. And I'm so happy to be able to share with you today because we have several goals that we've set for our congregation. And we actually started in 2019 because of the neighboring movement. It was so much fun to hear Maddie talk about that. I'm so grateful to the Health Fund for exposing us to that and recognizing the value in the neighboring work and making that training possible for our churches. And so in 2019, we went through the cohort and we were very focused on neighboring, and then the lockdown occurred and really shifted our attention to how we needed to do church in a different way to combat social isolation. And so I guess on the next slide, we can, first, we started with Pastor just recording and sharing his sermons online, but we were able to, well, these are the four goals that we added. The next slide will talk about social isolation and the things that we did to maintain connection in our congregation. The Health Fund actually made possible for us to live stream the worship because we had to purchase cameras and equipment to do that, but we fortunately had talented tech people that figured out how to do that. And the majority of our attenders could connect to worship this way. And we even noticed that we had extra people coming that we were glad to connect with that hadn't been joining us in person. So we also focused on other ways of keeping connected with fellow congregants, especially we have a number who are elderly and living alone and who may or may not have local family members. So we connected with our congregational care team and added to their work to make sure that everyone was contacted by phone or text at least once a week to chat and check up on assistance and provide a listening ear. And that was how we were able to identify those who were not connected by emails or able to watch the service online. We made sure to use phone and mail contact for communications with them. And we were also able to identify a few people and assist a few people who were gaining technology so that they could get online, and we loaned equipment and helped them see what they needed to do. And one of the other efforts, all of this was pretty much aimed at our congregation, but one of the things we did, I realized as Maddie was talking, sprang directly out of neighboring. I call her the resident chef. We have very talented cooks in our congregation, but Carrie had a vision of feeding the staff at Santa Fe Middle School, which is one of our church neighbors. And so we invited not just the teachers, but anyone employed at the school to come before Christmas break to pick up a complete family-sized take-home meal. They drove through the alley behind the church and we handed the meals through the windows. During the height of COVID, we had gloves and masks and made sure they had a good hot meal to take home and didn't have to prepare it that day. And then we also, using our technology, connected with the community. We partnered with Peace Connection, Circle of Hope, and the Harvey County ACEs Informed Advocate Project to present a training called Building Community Resilience. And that focuses on understanding adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, preventing ACEs, and building resilience. And we were, again, grateful for what we had learned through the pandemic and through our other technology ventures to be able to do that. We conducted a couple of surveys during this time to assess our efforts and found that 83% of the respondents agreed or strongly agreed to the statement, "I feel very connected to my church." And a similar, even more, 87% said they felt not at all isolated or alone, to only slightly isolated or alone. So we felt like that was partly, at least, a result of our efforts at Connection. And we continue to hold a lot of meetings, study groups and prayer groups online, and to live stream our service every week. We learned that online offerings can actually serve more people because they're convenient, they reduce transportation difficulties or barriers, and they allow people who are ill or have physical limitations to continue to participate. And then on the next slide, it was just so difficult when recognizing all the ongoing racial injustice that came to a head last year. We formed a small study group to learn more about racial issues, including white privilege. And the Great Plains Conference offers many online resources, books, movies, connections to video studies. And last summer, our DS at the time, Dee Williamston, organized a group called A Time to Listen. It was a series of panel discussions by the Great Plains Conference United Methodist Pastors of Color, including Bishop Sines and Reverend D. And they shared their experiences, that things that have happened to them while they're living in Kansas and Nebraska, examples of racial tension, discrimination, and mistreatment. And our group felt like this was a good place to start because we trusted these voices and we were able to hear and think about what they were saying. We watched Brian Stevenson on video and interviews about his work with wrongfully convicted Black men and juveniles. And the movie Just Mercy is one that highlights his work. You may have heard of that. And our current study is White Too Long by Robert P. Jones, subtitled The Legacy of White Supremacy in American Christianity. This one, too, requires an open mind and willingness to reflect. He connects history with current scientific polling to come to his conclusions, and we haven't finished it yet. So I'm hoping he'll have some positive suggestions in the last chapters. We've connected with a local group called Newton Community for Racial Justice, and this group sponsors Roots of Justice racial awareness intensive training. They've been doing it for a number of years here in Newton. And I was able to attend the training last year, and this year another member of our church is attending. And a good portion of our grant money this year is going to provide scholarships for Newton High School students who have indicated a desire for this training. And so I'd like to share some anti-racist actions that we can all take. And the first one is work on yourself first. We have found lots that we need to learn and that we need to unlearn. And it's important to keep an open mind. Here are some comments from members of our racial justice study group. I never before truly understood how much I have benefited from white privilege. And another one said, I was surprised how ignorant and naive I was about how prevalent racism still is in today's society, and how fearful some people of color are to even leave their homes in this day and age. I had no idea it was that bad. And a third one, it has been very beneficial to me and opened my eyes to what people of different ethnicity have faced or are facing. I have become more sensitive to potential harmful comments and actions that might perpetuate feelings of racial inequity. So we need to become aware of systemic racism. We may think we are not racist because we have friends or coworkers of color that we like or family that we love. But personal relationships are not the problem. A deeper problem in our society is the way our institutions and social structures often incorporate hidden barriers to racial equity. And if you are white, you benefit from these, whether you're aware of it or whether you even intend to take advantage of it or not. So you can seek out and support local anti-racism groups. You can work to elect anti-racist officials, support candidates who seek equity for all members of society. You can seek out and support BIPOC and minority-owned businesses and appreciates the gifts and talents in each person. And again, work on yourself first. This is an ongoing and humbling process. Instead of trying to fix things yourself or go out and find out what people of color are doing and join in. But on the other hand, if you are a person in a position of power, leverage that power in ways that move your organization toward anti-racism. So that brings us to voter to voter, which is a nonpartisan get out the vote group. And part of the reason for its founding was to empower groups that may be underrepresented or not participating as much in the voting process. So the idea behind it is relational organizing. People listen to their friends. They're more likely to listen to their friends than to a stranger who's trying to make a cold call and say, oh, go and vote, you know, support our candidate or the other candidate. And this is completely nonpartisan, so it is not for, it provides information, or well, it provides places where you can get information on the candidates, but it's basically asking people to talk to their friends and increase participation in the voting process. You may think that all of your friends are regular voters, but statistics show that you likely know more what they call low propensity voters than you think you do. And you can find out how much people are voting by using these voter to voter tools. It's based on publicly available information. You put a list of your friends into the tool. You can match them up with voter records to see if they're registered, to find out how frequently they have voted in the last 4 years. It doesn't show you how they vote, but it shows you whether they voted or not. So 3 of us formed a team, and I may be able to show you how this works if we have time. I'm not sure how our time is, Dashnika.
Let's see. Yeah, I think we can do it quickly if we can.
Okay. If I can get out of my full screen here. Maybe it's just better for me to provide the link and explain. I think that would work better.
Yeah, you can provide the link and then I can send it out to the folks who are here today.
Okay.
Or put it in the chat. You can
I can put it in the chat. I'll put it in the chat when I finish.
One other thing I wanted to point out that Patsy talked about that I was not aware of when we were learning more about the voter to voter engagement pieces is that it's really the team, like as that you were talking about, you can look up individuals and see if they have voted. I didn't realize that you could even go that far. My assumption was all of that is anonymous. It's really, we don't know which way people vote, but you can still find out if they have voted in recent elections. And then like that may be who you want to target and try to help encourage participate in upcoming elections. The other great part of what I love about that tool that she's mentioning as well is that you can go on and look up different candidates and see what their like platforms are for how they vote on issues. And it's kind of a one-stop shop for a lot of that. So that can be also a great avenue as you're even looking or people are asking questions to be able to know more about what they are kind of their platform for what they are, where they stand on different issues. So.
Yes, Katie, that's great. I appreciate you bringing that out. We found out that it's just the 3 of us in the Healthy Congregations worked on this last year, and we didn't get in on the primary, but I shouldn't say last year, I should say in 2020. We did contact some people ahead of the 2020 election, and we found out that we had 63% low propensity voters, which means they had only voted in less than twice of the previous 4 elections. And by contacting them, we were able to see that, and of course that was during the pandemic. So we were encouraging people to vote in advance. If they didn't want to go to the polls, they could request a ballot be sent to their home. And 40% of our contacts requested vote by mail ballots, and 76% voted. And so that team turnout overall was 5 points higher than the state as a whole. So I think that means probably about 71% of the state voted, but our contacts voted at a higher rate. And overall in the whole state, everybody that used voter to voter, those contacts voted at a 20 points higher. So that means that almost probably 90% of the people that were contacted by voter to voter actually followed through and voted, which is amazing. Normally if you're working for one of the parties or something and you're trying to get people to vote, you might have a 1 or 2% increase in your results. So this is very effective, and it's very important because around the country and possibly even in Kansas, there are efforts being made to not prohibit, but make it more difficult for people to vote. And so I think if we can encourage people to vote, the more people that participate in our democracy, the better off we all are. It's not really a democracy if people are disbarred from voting. So you'll see on the website, and I do encourage you to go there. They have tools that help you. They have trainings that help you. And I talked to one of the gals there this morning, and she said there is an event on January 27th for the past. It's kind of a wrap up of the last election, but it will also have information on relational organizing and plans for 2022. And you are all welcome to participate in that. So if you go to the voter to voter website, you'll be able to connect to that. And I do thank you for the opportunity today. This has been a great program. I enjoyed hearing about all the different plans and opportunities available. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patsy. Patsy representing the UMC. And wow, your team has done a lot over the years as well. And it sounds like you guys touched on, mental wellness as it pertains to social isolation, racial equity, and voter to voter. And I remember when I was reading through your HC work plan and your needs assessment, I was thinking, wow, you guys have touched on a lot of important topics. And I just want to just say that I'm so appreciative of the work that you've done. I'm appreciative of the work that you all have done. And I really hope that this webinar can help to inspire some new ideas and some motivations as you guys think about this year and think about your HC report and needs assessment and plan in June. Are there any questions for Patsy or just any questions in general about healthy congregations?
I just had a quick question. What did you serve the educators when they came by and picked up their meal?
Oh gosh, I don't remember I'm sorry, I don't remember the menu, but it was a hot meal. It was a casserole, I think, and a salad and a dessert.
Thank you.
It was a full meal.
That's such a great idea to do too. I mean, as we were talking about, like for frontline workers or how challenging things have been for some of them, especially, that's great. Any other questions? Sorry, I've got a sick kiddo home with me. So as you're seeing, I've got her here sitting on my lap, but I hope she's getting all of this information into. Maybe we'll have our next generation. I did want to, one other thing with the voter to voter, I think a number of them too, like this is a grant that we're continuing to offer. So you will see like opportunities for that for under the special grants, as Dashanika had pointed out, like that list of grants that are available. The other thing I was going to mention, and to Dashanika's point, we're really just wanting to give you all some ideas for things you can consider moving forward for 2022. And we know some of the deadlines are quickly approaching. So just thinking through, like, again, you have the bike share program. We know it seems like it's far off, but we're already in January, and in the spring is a great time to get that program off and running. The big garden, again, is another one. If you're considering it for the spring, you should start considering getting a team together now. And then the faith and democracy one is what we were just talking about. As we mentioned before, the training for the take action is happening starting at the end of the month. So please work to get a team together if you're interested in that. As Maddie mentioned, the Good Neighboring Experiment, there have been a number of people who are part of that too, who have gone through it. So those deadlines are quickly approaching. One other thing that we didn't really highlight in the same way is the mental health first aid. And those trainings, we are opening those up broader. So it's not just people that are part of your Healthy Congregations team. We're also inviting anyone within your church if they are interested in participating, or our other United Methodist churches. So please share this broader. We've been fortunate with the pandemic. One positive thing that has happened is you'll see, look at the list of trainings we have available. Dashanika is doing a great job showing all of this. But we have all of these training options available, partially because when we first were talking about this, the trainings were far more expensive when we were doing them in person, but now they're a virtual option. And as you can see, they're like one day, some on Thursdays, some on Saturdays for people to consider participating in. So if you or others on your team or anyone, I mean, really, we're not gonna sit there and look through your, who's part of your congregation too. If there are other members within your community that you think would benefit from this, or we're paying for this training. So all that to say, we would love, oh, Patsy's got a question.
Well, I'd just like to say that I did participate in a training in one of the mental health trainings last summer, and I just found it very valuable.
Great. And thank you for participating. We love to hear that you all are taking advantage of the different grants that we do have available. So this has been wonderful, in my opinion. I'm trying to think if I missed anything else. Dashanika, did I have any others that I was highlighting, and deadlines and dates?
I think you got it all.
Okay. Well, one other thing to keep in mind, and I'm assuming that all of you are very familiar, Dashanika has worked really hard over the last year putting together the newsletters for everyone and the other information that we're trying to get out to you all once a month, just to keep you updated on things that are occurring. Again, we're just really trying to provide you all with as many opportunities to find things that are happening. We know this is a challenging time with trying to figure out what's going on and what you're doing, just with the ever-changing dynamics with the pandemic, and just we know people are struggling again with social isolation and other pieces, and so and burnout. So we just want to thank you. Honestly, that is first and foremost. All of you on here are doing and have been doing amazing work. Even if you were not highlighted, we know the great things that are happening within each of your congregations and are just so impressed. We just wanted to give you all a chance to hear from each other, and also hear from some of our those that are acting as facilitators and are providing some of our grant opportunities. We feel so fortunate to be able to partner with all of you on this. So thank you. Any last minute questions, thoughts?
Yes. This is Pat Mitchell from Elm Creek, Nebraska. And just want to thank you for all the information. It's been very helpful, and thank you for all you do. Kind of gives me hope that maybe things are going to improve in our area. And thank you.
Great. Well, I don't want to keep you guys too long. We are 3 minutes over our scheduled time. Thank you so much for being with us today. We hope that you enjoyed this webinar, and that if you did, we would like to offer this again. If you guys did enjoy it, and again, like as Katie said, thank you all for your hard work, and have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.